Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Behind the Anchor. I'm Noah McLane, and, of course, the man that needs no introduction is Head Coach Jim Fleming. And, of course, Coach, first things first.
Man, yes.
Great to see you. Great to be back. We're back like we never left.
Well, you haven't really. I've seen you quite a bit, bro. So, yeah, I don't ever think a minute that you're really gone. So it's all good. I'm glad you're back, too.
Well, we're happy to be here. We have a great episode for you guys today. And the first thing, as always, we're going to start with some quick hitter questions. And the first question I have for you is favorite food. What do you got for me?
Fried chicken.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Homemade, or are you going out?
Well, my wife is going to cook fried chicken.
Yep.
But if you go to a person who specializes a home, fried chicken place, which I spent enough time down south to be treated to some really good fried chicken. That's what I would do. But if I'm going local, it's got to be KFC, I guess.
Okay. Yep.
But
potato wedges and fried chicken.
If they had Bojangles is one of the best. When you talk about, but they don't have them up here.
I know. We don't have a lot of things around here.
No, you got plenty of healthy stuff.
Yeah.
Plenty of alternatives. Fried chicken doesn't have to be there on the top of the list.
Now, on the complete opposite spectrum, somebody puts a plate in front of you, and what is one thing that you are just saying, send it back to the kitchen. I will not eat this. Least favorite food.
Anything with mayonnaise on it.
Really?
Yeah, no mayo, man.
So you go to McDonald's and the chicken gets put in front of you, you say absolutely
no, take it back. We're rolling back to the window and say, hey, dude, I said no mayo.
Fair enough. I feel like that's a common trend between some people I know. So you wouldn't be the first to say that. Now, when you sit down for long hours of game film, do you have a go-to meal or snack that you like to keep you in some form of sanity while you're watching all the film?
It's a long career, and there's been many mistakes made on the things you eat when you're in season and very badly. So I've been trying to adjust that quite a bit. But I got to say that, when we come in and we work, I buy dinner for the staff on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and sometimes Wednesday night so we can continue to work. But I got to say that the best thing we're eating right now is George McCullough's Muse wings.
Oh,
we have wing night on Monday night, and I have laid off of all the other options. But when it comes to wing night, I got to go to Muse dry rubs.
Fantastic. I mean, I feel like anything from Muse is unbelievable.
Yes.
You can't go wrong with that whole menu.
That is true.
Now, this is related in some form. You talk about some foods that maybe you're trying to lay off of. If you had a guilty pleasure food, what would that be?
Fried chicken. Guilty pleasure food. I mean, you want the guiltiest of all is roll up into, a 7-Eleven, a Speedway, a Cumberland Farms, and you get one of those Hostess cherry pies.
Oh,
not a good thing to eat. But very tasty, guilty pleasure.
Sorry, Dad, I have to call you out. Yeah, you ever had one of those pies you get in a box from a gas station?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so exactly.
Those were in the old days. They come in the wax paper.
Yes, yep.
Now they're in boxes. So
exactly.
Those are knockoffs. But,
yeah, no, those are.
They're all really poor for you. But good.
That was my dirty treat when my dad and I would go out.
Nice.
That was something for sure. So,
is it cherry or blueberry? What do you like?
Blueberry's better. I like blueberry, but I mean cherry. I'll roll with either. I'm not
picky. I wouldn't go with any of them.
Fair enough. Now I don't eat them, but
deep fried dough with nasty stuff in the middle of it. It's not the best thing.
Something tells me those blueberries and cherries aren't fresh. So now, after a sweet victory, speaking of sweet things, a good old victory, just like Saturday night, you're going home, or, well, actually, maybe you're not. How do you celebrate a great win like that? What's your go-to?
Well, I'll give you the exact thing I did last Saturday night. I got out of the locker room. We do the things that we do, post-game, go around, check with the trainer, make sure everything's tight. go out to the tailgate area. I see my wife, and she was watching my son Will's game. Lamar was playing Weber State, and it was a big game. So we watched that in the parking lot, had a cold beverage. But, what we do is we go straight home, and sadly or appropriately, we end up in the garage. And so we go to the garage, turn the music up, have a couple of cold beverages, and usually dance around a little bit after a victory.
That sounds like a great thing to do.
It's a great time. It's a great club dub, we call it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, certainly we were in Club Dub this past weekend, and we're going to jump right into things. Now let's talk about the end of that first half, because there was a lot of chaos. Now, including some clock operation and put 1 second or 2 seconds back on the game clock. But right before that, you guys had one heck of a stand at the goal line. They tried the tush push. They tried to run it up the middle, a couple of different things, but your defense held strong. Just talk about your message to those guys in the locker room about how to build off that momentum.
Well, I think, you mentioned all the chaos leading up to that. I think that there was 2 or 3 penalties going down the way to get there, and it was like, shocking. But then you got down there and those kids buckled in, and when those kinds of things happen, which has happened here a number of times. You remember years ago at Stony Brook, we had them here, and we won on a goal line stand. It's scheme, but it's also just absolute willpower of that group on defense. And I thought it was the biggest play of the game. It really, got us feeling really good coming off at halftime. We took a knee, went in there, and we had the ball coming out at the beginning of the second half, and we were able to take it down and punch it in. It probably all started from that goal line stand. And when you think about 3 more feet, that one came down 3 more inches, and they couldn't get it. So much credit to the defensive guys, pad level, knocking people back, and just iron will.
I will say I was on the sideline for that. That was pretty electric. It was very impressive, and it was nice to see the tush push not work as a Giants fan. I hate when the Eagles do that. So the brotherly shove being dismantled was a beautiful thing. But let's talk about another highlight point. This week, URI had the best ground game that it's had all season, and the offense has been something that has been slow to start off in the first few games. Looks much better in this game. Just talk about how important that is, and maybe some of your thoughts as to why that changed.
Well, it was choice. It was a necessity for us. We went into the game knowing that, we needed to establish a running game, not only with our quarterback, but with the running backs that we have. And, it's been limited touches for those poor dudes. We got some really talented kids that, you just want to feed the rock to. And in the game that we play nowadays with RPOs and stuff, you can call a run play, but it becomes a pass play very quickly. And there's a lot on the quarterback to be able to make the right decision as to whether to hand it off or going out to the different options that are available. But we were thrilled, the way we got a couple of explosion runs. I think Malik had a couple. I think Dion had a couple. And there was, and then obviously Devin's big run. It's necessary for you to have. We cannot be one-dimensional. We won't survive that way. So you're right. You hit it right on the head. We needed to do it, and we did it well, but we didn't do it still to the capability. We thought we missed a few reads that might have been really a couple more explosive runs to running backs.
Now, obviously, you talk about the offense kind of finding more of a groove, still room for improvement, but something that's been pretty spectacular for almost the entire season. Obviously, there's kinks to work out in every area of the game, but the defense has been phenomenal in just about every game, including this past Saturday. 9 tackles for a loss, 7 broken up passes. How good, in your mind, can this defense be in this 2024 CAA season?
You've seen really impressive stuff so far.
Yep.
If we are doing our job as coaches and we continue to go ahead and get them better and better every week, then, we should really have an opportunity to be a dominant championship level defense. Now, a lot of things have to happen right. You got to stay healthy. You got to stay fresh. We certainly need to be able to lighten the load on those guys if we're going to be able to play to the best of our abilities. They've been on the field the last 2 games, 40 out of the 60. And, that's just too long to be on there. So that's a shared responsibility between offense extending drives and also defense, not giving up, 12-play drives. But, at the end of that game, we gave up a long drive, but that was by choice. It was one of those things, hey, here's the score. Let's let the clock bleed out. And if they're going to get 12 plays and no points, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about a thing that's, I call it one of the most underappreciated aspects of the game, which is special teams and kickers. The Pat McAfee show of College Game Day. Yeah. And have you ever said anything bad about a kicker? But now let's talk about for a moment Devin Walter, your punter, who he's had 4 last week that went within the 20-yard line of your opponent's field possession. How important is that for you guys to start off on a defensive drive, to put them in a position where they feel the pressure right out of the gate?
I think it's absolutely critical field position. It's really what you field of land acquisition, right? And you sit there and think about a stalled drive, but you have an opportunity with a good punt to be able to gain 40 yards. Great. There's I don't know if it's a formula, but there's a sheet that we've always had. The percentage of scoring when you start off inside your 10-yard line is like 6%.
Yeah.
In between the 20, it goes up and up closer you get to the other goal line. So I thought Devin did a great job managing that. I thought our coverage teams were good. We asked Devin to put the ball in a specific spot so we can go ahead and cover a lesser area. And then I thought our kickoff coverage was just off the chain. Those were exciting plays. Now, on the flip side of that, where we are lacking, and something we've been very prideful of here, is just the return game. We haven't gotten that going yet, and that's an offensive weapon that once we get going, that'll be first downs involved in return yardage, and that's helpful because that flips the field as well. So we're working hard on them all. We got great pride in special teams. Troy Gilmer does a great job with that, and looking forward to seeing us improve because those are huge plays. There's only 25 of them in a game, so when you talk about the significance of a special teams play, it's more. 25 plays on special teams, you got 70 to 80 on offense or defense. So you got to be right in those, and you got to be willing to play those plays longer and harder than your opponent.
Yep. Now, there's a saying, the first one, hardest one. How important and how does it feel that you guys were able to go out to start off conference play and get a win in pretty, commanding fashion? Obviously, when you guys came out in the second half, it seems like all momentum just swung right to Rhode Island, including just that. Again, I'm going back to this defense because the holding of Sincere Brown and the entirety of just preventing that Campbell offense was very impressive. How important to get that first one out of the way is that for you and your squad?
It's critically important. And, you hear coaches talk about it all the time. One game at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 play at a time.
Yep.
Can you stay consistent with that? But look, the defensive staff, Chris Laurenti and the guys have, put together a fantastic plan. They executed it well. It's really important for us to get off on the right foot in the conference play. That goes without saying. We know we've been relatively successful, but you got to win 5 or 6 in conference right now if you're really going to solidify your opportunity to go into the playoffs. But the start with that kind of win is critically important, and really proud of both sides of the ball because we're starting to play off each other a little bit more, and I think there are good things ahead.
Now, when we talk about moving ahead, it's hard to not think that this has flown by already. We're already a quarter way through the regular season. It seems like just yesterday we were sitting down for the first time here in Rhode Island talking about preseason. We're a quarter of the way through. When you think back on your first few games as a team and how this team has kind of come together so far, what has impressed you most about this year's team?
It is the ability to bring new people in from different programs, new kids that are going to be contributing, people that have been in your program, finally getting an opportunity to play. Seeing those guys step up is truly impressive to me. Seeing where we are right now, knowing where we can be is that's the goal that we have to continue to get better. But I think that the most impressive thing has just been, the intensity of the defense. You know,
Yep.
their spirit, their emotion. You know, it's what champions are made of. And if we can go ahead and put it all together in the two other phases and stay consistent on defense here, we'll have a good season.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't, agree more. I think that defense, just when you talk about it, for the first time I was able to be on the sideline for that game, and every time they come off, somebody is always talking, everybody's fired up. It's a very, lively group of guys that want to get things done.
They just love to play, right?
Yes,
I mean, they just love to play.
Yeah.
Get me out there, put the ball down, let's go. I don't care where it is. I'm going to get to play another snap. And that truly is the defensive mentality for my entire career that you've preached.
Yeah.
Some teams get it, some teams don't. But this one says, hey, put the ball down and we'll go play. And we're going to get it back real quick to the offense.
Yeah. Now, you talk about, being able to join together with as a group, as guys come in from a whole different places, guys are stepping up into new roles that have been here before, coming in from different places, as you mentioned. When you think about the uniqueness of a team, because each team has something different from one another, what has this team so far this season kind of begun to do in your mind that has separated itself in difference from other teams that you've coached?
That's a very, very deep question, a hard one to answer. I'm kind of flipping back to what you just said. You're a third way through.
Yeah.
Things are okay. We're 2-1. You write off the Minnesota game, and we're okay. We've beaten two quality opponents. I was scared to death about Campbell. I really was very nervous about that team, and we handled them. But we're looking at the baton death march now. I mean, you're looking at the 1/3 is nothing. So we're in a good place right now. But the critical thing is, are you going to be in the same spot or better as you continue to go down the road? How are you going to handle the disease of me, which Pat Riley used to talk about, when it's, hey, I'm not getting the rock enough, or, why is he being recognized and I'm not? All of those team chemistry things have to be proven over time. We've got a good start, got 2 wins in the pocket, but we got a long way to go, and we got a very short focus to be able to go down to LIU, who scheduled us as the homecoming game, and they'll be cranked up, and we're going to have to go down and play well.
And that swings right into my next question. Obviously, LIU coming into this coming weekend, a bye weekend, and then down to Hampton. 2 wins here at home. And then actually now, after that Campbell game, you guys aren't back here until October 12th. Yeah. That's a long time to be on the road, to figure out how to get a couple of wins, some difficult teams in the ahead of you guys. What's that like, the importance to be able to come in when you have 2 home games to start off the season and get those 2 wins at home before you go out, and rather than trying to find your identity on the road, you've kind of almost found it in some sense here at home.
Yeah, I think it's, I start with the fan experience. I mean, I'm thrilled we're able to have 2 home games early to give the people the excitement and the fun that a football game at URI is. I mean, it's a great day, not only for the students, it's the people that are coming back, it's the community. You're sitting there putting them a night game up here. You got a great day ahead of you. Get up in the morning, go to the Ocean Mist, and go watch the doggone football game later on. But I mean, you can't ask for anything better. But now, when you get on the road, it's the same game. You just got to you have to make sure that you're finding your own emotion throughout the team. We talked about it going into this week. Don't know what kind of crowd will be, but we have to find the passion in each other, and the execution is what's critical when you're on the road. You just can't go on the road and think you're going to lay your hat out there and win. It's going to be tough every step of the way.
Now, when we talk about going on the road, and let's talk about this first opponent that you guys are facing this coming weekend, LIU, only 38 points in comparison to their opponent's 92. So there has been a lot of, not a lot of offense for them, and clearly the defense has had a lot of breakdowns along the way. But when you think about some points of emphasis for your team going into this weekend, just some thoughts on the Sharks as a whole as you journey down to Long Island.
Well, let's look at them. I mean, they opened up with Albany.
Yeah.
They beat them in every statistical category, but lost the game. They had a Minnesota-type game going down to TCU, and then they go ahead and they lose a tight one to Lehigh last week at home. So I mean, this is not a bad football team. I look at them on defense. I've got great respect for what they have out there. They got good kids that run around, they're hitting. Offensively, it's a little bit behind their defense, but they've got a couple of receivers that can really hurt you. Got a good running back. They've got about 6 quarterbacks. They really have 4 quarterbacks that they play.
Yeah.
And they all got a little different flavor to them. But, they're very, very dangerous. And it will be a good win for us, if we can get down there and get started and put the third one in the pocket, which, is what's necessary. We got to stack wins, no matter how you get them. And then you got to stack conference wins in particular.
Now, last question for you. When you go down there, if you just kind of had to say 2 things on the opposite side for your team, when you go down and play LIU this weekend, what is kind of that 2 or 3 things that's kind of nagging at your mind saying, this is what needs to be done, this is what needs to be cleaned up perhaps, or this is what needs to continue even for you guys to get that third win?
I think start on the defensive side. We've talked about how good they have been, but where we are lacking right now is the ability to take the ball off of people. We're not getting enough takeaways.
Yeah.
So that's been a big emphasis this week. That's, something that we emphasize all the time. It just, the tap hasn't turned on yet. We got to start picking some. We got to start ripping the ball a little bit more. We got to get on the ground and pick them up. Offensively, it becomes a, continual involvement. The more I think about it, what are we? I mean, we've got good skill. Everybody recognizes that. We've got a young offense that are down, so we have to have next man up mentality there. You got a quarterback that's played 3 games since he was in high school, and you've got a backup that's chomping to go. Wide receivers are, good. What we're after offensively is just more consistent performance. And it's a wide open offense that has lots of options, and we have lots of athletes we can get the ball to. But in terms of making those decisions, it becomes firmly on the quarterback's head. And Dev is, continuing to show improvement each week. Gotten us 2 dubs, and now we sit there and watch him to continue to operate the offense in a high manner. I think we'll be fine there. And then, like I said earlier, our return game needs to come alive. And we got to make sure that we're able to protect and kick the field goals when we have to. We'd much rather score touchdowns.
And today we have our first-time guest on for today. It's the special teams coordinator, Troy Gilmer. And first off, Coach, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys for having me.
Of course, man. We are very excited to have a conversation with you today. And the first question I have for you is, as a special teams coordinator, when you think about the mindset of a player that you put in out there on the field for every opportunity that they receive, what's the most important thing that you want them to think about? What makes a person be, the best special teams athlete out there?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, you got to kind of understand it's called special teams for a reason. Those guys are special, and they have to look at it that way. It's only a certain amount of people that play special teams, and they have to take on those roles. Whether you're a full-time starter on offense or defense, or you're a guy that's a role player that's trying to carve out a role for yourself on the team. It's something that you got to take a lot of pride for. So I would say, just really having a lot of pride and understanding that it's a very important facet of the game.
Now, when you think about special teams, for those at home who may not know, exactly what the difference is, that what separates your typical offensive and defensive players to special teams. What's the difference between those kinds of players, and what's that separation look like in your mind?
I would say just really when you're game planning for special teams, you got to understand that there's a lot of different units of special teams. So offense and defense, you're specifically game planning for their offense, their defense. But when it comes to special teams, you're game planning for their kickoff return, their punt return, their punt unit, and all those different facets of special teams. So there's a lot that goes into it, and they're all units where you're out in space a lot. So it's one of those things where you're, whether it's kickoff, whether it's punt, you're covering the whole field.
Right.
Everybody's playing out in space, so you got to have the right athletes out there to be able to get the job done.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I know we certainly saw a couple of those examples.
Yeah.
The special teams looked very impressive this past weekend, at least in my eyes. I'm sure there's some things that you probably saw different from me, but they were looking good this past weekend. Now, you've coached numerous talents over your time here at Rhode Island, including as an outside linebackers coach here at URI. LB Mack, Brandon Javier Castillo, Nas Jones. But what is so special about the Pena-Solomons tandem compared to other, places and people that you've kind of coached in previous locations?
Well, I think those two have really they came here and kind of grown together.
Yeah.
They're really kind of a true tandem where, it's hard in this day and age to get guys that come in as freshmen to stick around and really develop in the program. And those are two guys that have really done that, man. So I think they've just really kind of grown together. They're leaders on the team now, and they're really embracing those roles. So I think that's a heavy part of it. And I enjoy and love coaching those guys.
Yeah. Now, this is your 11th season here at URI, and obviously you're becoming a very familiar face in this organization.
Yep.
When you think back to your time when you started here and to where this program has come along the way, can you just speak to the development of how far this program has come and gotten to the point where we are now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we first got here, we had some solid guys in the program. We've done a good job of recruiting and continue to recruit, better and better talent each and every year. But I would say the biggest thing is just the development of the culture. It's come a long way. There's a lot of belief that we're going to win. So being able to kind of brainwash the guys to understand that, hey, it's a lot about belief. If we're all in, we're all believing, we're all working towards the same goal, that matters a lot. And these guys have done a really great job of it.
Now that leads me directly into my next question, which is, when you think about spending this long with a program and you talk about that culture, that 3 more feet, that family mentality that is preached by every coach, and you hear guys walking around campus saying it, the same thing from the moment they step on here, that family, aspect comes into play. Just talk about how much that culture means to a program like this in developing and just an everyday basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the foundation of really any team, any business, anything that's going on where you're trying to get a group of people together is understanding that there's a culture, there's a way of doing things. We're all working towards one goal, and I think Coach Flem's done a great job of that. I played for Coach Flem at the University of Akron. That's actually where kind of the 3 more feet mantra kind of started, so I'm very familiar with that and everything like that. And so when we came here and we were able to kind of embrace that and get that going here, it's been great. And I think the guys have really done a great job of buying into it.
Awesome. And last question for you is, now, for someone that's going to watch these games for the rest of the season on your Rhode Island special team squad, what can you tell us that is something that just sticks out to you that says, this is our identity, this is who we are, and this is what you can expect from our squad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we kind of have a mantra on our special teams of working harder and working longer than the opponent. Yep. So we want to be each and every day, we want to come out, we want to work harder, and we want to try to embrace the mentality of working longer, because those are long period of time plays. There's a lot of special teams play is anywhere from, 4 to 8 to 10 second plays, so it's a long period of time. So being able to first and foremost work harder than your opponent, and then being able to continue to work longer, and that turns some of those, small plays into big plays.
Coach, thank you so much for sitting down with us. We really appreciate it. We'd like to thank Special Teams Coordinator Troy Gilmer for joining us today. And, of course, thank you to Head Coach Jim Fleming. Thank you, Coach, so much for joining us today. That is all we have for you guys this week. We'll see you next week on Behind the Anchor.